Welcome to the CNS Podcast featuring Dr. Daryl Inaba, Research Director for CNS Productions.
As neuroscientists continue to unravel how the brain is an addicted brain with the reward reinforcement circuitry and now the prefrontal cortex with the control circuitry and how they are arrived, what's happening with all the different parts of those brains. Perhaps the most interesting thing or exciting thing for pharmacologists and drug scientists are looking at this almost infinite number of neurochemicals and brain cells to manipulate that'll help shut down that process and help those with substance use disorders better enter and maintain their recovery. Discoveries come out almost every week, and recently there's been in the news one chemical that was produced by Pfizer company called CP154526. It's also being investigated by the Oregon Health and Science University. And what this is a chemical or a drug, a new drug that's being developed to suppress the stress mechanism. Anytime a person is in stress or has a stress reaction, their hypothalamus, which is part of the reward reinforcement circuitry, releases a chemical called CRF, corticotropin releasing factor. This chemical travels a short distance and affects the pituitary, that's right below the reward reinforcement circuitry, to then release another hormone called ACTH, adrenocorticotropic hormone. That hormone travels throughout the body and affects the kidneys. And in the kidneys, it releases cortisol. And it is now believed that cortisol is probably a major chemical in why people develop a compulsivity or need to continue seeking out a drug. When you take heroin, alcohol, or any depressant drug, you get a decrease in the release of ACTH and CRF. So pretty much those drugs sort of supplant your major stress reaction and supplants it, takes the place of it. Conversely, when you go into withdrawal or take stimulants, you get an actual increase in ACTH and CRF, and you get an increased release of cortisol that stimulates a tremendous craving or a need to go back to using the opiates to suppress the release, or something to suppress the release of your stress hormones and relieve that stress mechanism. There is some belief that ACTH and CRF are also neurotransmitters of their own light and have their own activity. But all this was talked about years ago, actually a few years ago, and at the last Haight-Ashbury conference, just about a year ago, George Koob, who's one of the major researchers in this country, was very actively looking at the fact that if you get a medication that supplants or suppresses the stress mechanism without activating other parts of the reward reinforcement circuitry, that you could really have a drug that effectively suppresses craving and totally eliminates the drive to continue exposing yourself. They're now looking at human research, and they're finding that it has significant ability to relieve craving and relieve drug hunger.
That wraps our pod for today. Thanks for visiting the CNS Podcast. Please check back soon for the next in the series and visit our website, www.cnsproductions.com.